The sun was barely up on a chilly October morning in 2027, and I was already neck-deep in editing a video for a client who swore their dog's trick montage deserved a Hollywood score. I'm Ethan Carter, a freelance video editor living in Willow Creek, a pristine suburb outside Seattle where every lawn looks like it's been trimmed with nail scissors. My wife, Lauren, is the new police chief in our district, but she keeps that under wraps around here. Not because she's hiding anything, but because she just wants to grill burgers and be a normal mom to our kid without neighbors asking her to settle their mailbox disputes. We'd only been in Willow Creek for a month, thinking our biggest problem would be the guy with the 6 a.m. chainsaw obsession. Oh, how wrong we were. Enter Margaret Hayes, our HOA president, a woman who could turn a misplaced garden gnome into a federal case. The first time we met her, I was slogging through a soul-crushing corporate training video when she showed up at our door, clipboard in hand, looking like she was about to audit our entire existence. Mandatory exterior compliance check, she announced, as if she were delivering a presidential decree. Lauren, still unpacking boxes, smiled politely and said, "We're swamped, can you come back next week?" Margaret's face froze like Lauren had just suggested torching the community center. Safety doesn't wait for convenience, she snapped, clutching her clipboard tighter. Lauren, calm as ever, just said, "I'll call you when we're ready," and closed the door. I swear, Margaret stood there for a full minute, mouth half open, like her brain had crashed. Even the neighbor's yappy terrier started barking at her for standing still too long. The next day, Margaret was back with what I can only describe as a suburban SWAT kit measuring tape, stopwatch, camera, the works. She declared an emergency compliance audit and started measuring our front door's response time. When Lauren ignored her knocks, Margaret dropped her clipboard, papers flying everywhere as she chased them down the street in her sensible pumps, shouting about urgent violations. I was dying laughing from the window, but Lauren just watched with this eerie calm, like she'd seen worse tantrums in her line of work. Optimal harassment trajectory calculations, she muttered when I asked what Margaret was doing with all that gear. That's when it clicked me wife wasn't just handling a nosy neighbor. She was analyzing a potential threat like the seasoned cop she is. Turns out, Margaret's door obsession wasn't random. Years ago, when her son, Tommy, was a kid, their house was broken into while she was at work. Poor Tommy, terrified, ran from door to door begging for help, but no one answered. That kind of trauma sticks with you, makes you see every unopened door as a red flag. The neighborhood started noticing when 17-year-old Sophie Chun, a budding filmmaker down the block, began recording Margaret's antics for a school project. Sophie's got better camera gear than most pros, and she caught Margaret measuring the exact distance from her house to ours with a surveyor's wheel, like she was planning a military strike. Sophie showed me the footage, narrating like a nature documentary. Day 4 of surveillance. Subject has calculated optimal knocking angles. I couldn't tell if Margaret was dedicated or unhinged. Things got wilder when Margaret started spreading her theories. She told Mrs. Larson, our elderly neighbor, good neighbors cooperate with oversight. Unresponsive behavior means they're hiding something. Mrs. Larson, who binge watches crime dramas, started nodding along, saying, maybe she's onto something. Margaret's mix of retail manager confidence and true crime podcast knowledge was convincing some folks. The comedy peaked when she backed into her own mailbox while obsessively measuring our property line, toppling it in a glorious crash ironic for someone who spent hours checking everyone else's compliance. Sophie's camera caught it all, of course. But then Margaret crossed a line that made Lauren sit up. She left a notice on our door, complete with a fake embossed seal, citing non-existent municipal codes and threatening emergency intervention. Lauren read it and laughed, but it wasn't her usual laugh. "She's fabricating legal authority," she said, her voice shifting to that professional tone I was starting to recognize. "This isn't just annoying anymore, Ethan. She's escalating." That night, we saw Margaret's dining room lit up until 3 a.m., her silhouette pacing like she was plotting a coup. I whispered, "What's she doing in there?" But Lauren's silence told me she was already assessing the threat. The next morning, Margaret showed up with a full-blown stalker's toolkit measuring tape, camera, stopwatch, and a notebook for compliance data. She knocked 3 times, counted to 15, photographed our door, and scribbled notes like she was cracking a case. Neighbors gathered, some chuckling, others whispering about her dedication. Lauren, on a work call about de-escalation training, ignored the chaos, casually watering plants by the window to make it clear she wasn't playing Margaret's game. I was stressing about noise complaints, but Lauren was cool as ice, like she was playing chess while Margaret was stuck in a game of her own invention. Then Margaret pulled a stunt that had me floored. She ordered a pizza to our house, disguised her voice, and hid in our bushes with a stopwatch to time Lauren's response. When Lauren opened the door for the confused delivery guy, saying, "We didn't order this," Margaret leapt out, shouting, "Selective door discrimination documented." The poor driver backed away, asking if someone needed to call the cops, while neighbors filmed and laughed. Lauren just raised an eyebrow, but I could tell she was analyzing Margaret like a suspect now. "She can bring a marching band if she wants," Lauren said later, her voice deadly calm. "I know exactly which laws she's breaking." The situation hit fever pitch when Margaret got tangled in our sprinklers during one of her covert operations, soaked to the bone, but still scribbling notes about our suspicious door protocols. Sophie's footage was gold, but even she looked worried about Margaret's mental state. The neighborhood was splitting. Some bought Margaret's crime show logic. Others thought she was losing it. I started wondering if Lauren could have handled it better, maybe been more diplomatic. "I followed harassment protocol," she snapped when I suggested it, and the hurt in her eyes made me realize I'd crossed a line. "I edit videos, not egos. What did I know about dealing with someone who thinks they're the FBI?" The breaking point came on a crisp Tuesday morning in November 2027. Margaret, parked in a lawn chair with a custom mug labeled Community Guardian, dialed 911 like she was reporting a terrorist plot. "I need a welfare check at 472 Pine Lane," she told the dispatcher, voice dripping with authority. "Resident shows concerning isolation patterns, refusing safety verification for 2 weeks. As HOA coordinator, I'm worried about potential domestic issues or concealment." I was watching from our porch, coffee in hand, thinking, this woman's lost it. The dispatcher, trained to take welfare calls seriously, sent Officer Daniels. When Daniels arrived, he took one look at Margaret's setup chair, umbrella, binoculars, a binder thicker than a phone book, and barely kept a straight face. "Ma'am, what exactly are you monitoring?" he asked. Margaret launched into her spiel about dangerous isolation patterns and pointed at our house like it was a crime scene. I stepped outside in my pajamas, bleary-eyed, and asked, "Officer, what's going on?" Lauren strolled out, cool as ever, and said, "Morning, Daniels. How's the wife?" Then she flashed her badge. The look on Daniel's face was pure cinema shock, recognition, then mortified embarrassment in 3 seconds flat. "Chief Carter, ma'am, I'm so sorry. Dispatch didn't say it was you." Margaret, straining to see, demanded, "Chief of what?" Daniels, barely holding it together, said, "Ma'am, you called 911 on our police chief." Her mug slipped from her hands, shattering on the sidewalk, the word guardian in pieces. Her face went from smug to horrified as kids nearby started mock knocking on mailboxes, yelling, "Answer the door." Mrs. Larson, filming, called out, "Margaret, you called the cops on the police chief?" Lauren kept her poker face, but I could tell she was savoring the chaos. Daniels explained, "Ma'am, misuse of emergency services is a misdemeanor. Welfare checks are for real emergencies, not neighbor disputes." Margaret, tangled in her own measuring tape, stammered, "But avoidance patterns indicate concealment." Daniels wasn't having it. "Privacy is a constitutional right, ma'am." As she tried to retreat, she tripped over her cooler, spilling papers everywhere. Neighbors offered Lauren coffee, apologized for Margaret's antics, and handed Daniels badge stickers for their kids. Lauren pulled me aside and said, "I've dealt with people calling 911 over wrong burger orders. This is nothing." But that night, we saw Margaret's dining room glowing, red string connecting photos on a conspiracy board. She'd found an article about the Wilson case, where Lauren saved a kid named Tommy Hayes from a meth lab explosion. Margaret whispered to herself, "She's the one who hurt my son." For 4 days, Margaret vanished, and the neighborhood breathed easy. I joked about answering our door without fear of a clipboard ambush, but Lauren wasn't convinced. "People like her don't just stop," she said. She was right. Margaret's dining room became a war room laptop, articles taped to walls, legal pads scrawled with notes. She'd linked the Wilson case to her son, Tommy, misinterpreting Lauren's role. She built a conspiracy board, Lauren's photo at the center, tied to every negative police story she could find online. She filed complaints with Internal Affairs, emailed Channel 5 with a sloppy harassment claim, and got traction because it was a slow news day. Lauren was put on administrative leave pending review. False complaints still get investigated, she told me, stress creeping into her voice. This could tank my probationary period. I was floor-door drama was now a career threat. Neighbors were split. Some backed Lauren, having seen Margaret's madness. Others bought her safety narrative. I started doubting Lauren's approach, saying, "Maybe you came off too harsh." She shot me a look that screamed I'd betrayed her. "I'm following protocol, Ethan," she said, hurt. Margaret even caught my doubt on camera, adding it to her evidence of family discord. The community meeting on a rainy Monday night was pure theater. Margaret rolled in with a briefcase and a slideshow titled The Carter Investigation, Defending Community Safety. Her homemade charts and blurry photos looked ridiculous, but her confidence sold it to some. Lauren, stripped of authority, sat in a folding chair, unable to defend her 15-year career. When she said, "I have a right to privacy," Margaret banged a gavel yes, a gavel and snapped. Investigated officers don't lecture about rights. The room was torn. Some admired Margaret's work. Others squirmed at her obsession. A poll showed most wanted harmony, subtly pressuring us to move. I voted against Lauren, and the guilt hit like a truck. Then came the bombshell. The next morning, a young man in a college hoodie knocked on Margaret's door. "Miss Hayes, I'm Tommy Hayes. We need to talk about the Wilson case." Margaret froze, whispering, "Tommy, my Tommy." He nodded. "Mom, I've been following your campaign. You've got it all wrong about Chief Carter." From our window, Lauren and I watched as Tommy showed hospital records and his sobriety chip. She pulled me from that explosion, gave me CPR, told me I'd survive. "I'm clean because of her." Margaret collapsed, sobbing. "I ruined an innocent woman thinking I was protecting you." Internal Affairs cleared Lauren, and Channel 5 issued corrections. Margaret faced a lawsuit $8,000 in damages, community service, and a restraining order. The HOA stripped her powers, and Lauren got a commendation for restraint. Neighbors apologized, and Sophie's documentary, Door Wars, went viral, winning a Student Film Award. 2 years later, in 2029, Lauren's a regional chief. My editing business is booming, and Willow Creek hosts block parties without drama. Margaret teaches conflict resolution, finally listening to Tommy. New neighbors, the Wilsons, moved in sweet folks who bake cookies. But last week, I caught Mrs. Wilson measuring trash can distances with a tiny notebook. Lauren smirked. "Some patterns never die, Ethan." So what do you think? Was Margaret a misguided mom or a dangerous zealot? Should Lauren have played nice early on, or was she right to stand her ground? And what about did I betray my wife by doubting her, or was I just caught in the chaos? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more wild stories. How far would you go to protect your peace?